Okay, yeah, a little green check went on over here.
Yep.
You are live.
And we're almost up on Instagram. Just a few more seconds. All right. Just a few more seconds.
Okay, so it's a few minutes behind. Yeah.
All right, Mark, kick us off.
Oh shit. Okay. I forget that we're already live. I was gonna be like, hey, what up, what up, what up? Happy Mother Loving Monday or whatever day you landed on this Mother Loving recording, or if you're here live with us, it's Monday. Welcome to Brown and Spiritual AF, and it's been more than a couple of minutes, almost a couple of years since me and Isela got down to the nitty gritty and brought you guys another controversial, another compassionate, another amazing episode where we take a deep dive into our lives and what's going on and how it ties to our spirituality, especially in this day and age. It's almost 2025 and there's a lot of shit going on in the world, especially in the last 2 years since we've been able to update you guys with our lives. So Missy Sella, how are you doing today and what has been going on with you since the last time we had a live chat like this?
So it's been almost 2 years, and I just can't believe it's been that long. And I appreciate you asking me, but I really am curious about what happened in your life because you like traveled the world. I think the last time
Two
we
times already.
two times already. I had a group, and I forget what, maybe it was the 21-day worthiness challenge, that it was right before you were about to leave the country. And I think that's what was going on, was the 21-day worthiness challenge. And then you left, and then like we really haven't I mean, we've talked here and there. I've done some readings on Facebook where you've joined, but I'm curious to know about what happened. Where did you go? Why did you go? And what did you do? What did you learn? Like, I just want to know.
Wow, dang, it has been a minute since we talked. It's crazy to think that it has, and it's gone by like this. So the first time, right, because I read it 2 times already. I already got back again for the second time this summer. So I went to Europe 2 times.
Okay.
And the first time I went to Estonia for a 3-week Mind Valley University experience. And the weekend before that was a coaching experience because I got some coaching certifications and I went to go meet up with a bunch of other coaches and learn from some of the best in the business. And so that's what I went for the first time, and that opened me up to a whole other realm of possibilities. You know what I mean? It allowed me to see that, wow, we are more alike across the globe than we are different.
Mm.
Peru showed me that, but to be in this spot, there was people from all over the world. I have friends now from Australia, Singapore, Paris, Africa, you know what I mean? South America. I got more friends across the globe than I got in the motherfucking United States of America right now. You know? So this experience was great because it allowed me to it was right before the worthiness challenge, right? And it was right after the worthiness challenge. And that really helped me out because it helped me really clear up some of those imposter syndrome things, you know? It helped me dig deep and go inside and be like, wow, I'm really transforming into something different. Or I'm becoming more of who I truly am versus who I was conditioned to be.
Right.
And leading up, I remember the beginning of the year, my friend said, we're going to manifest this for you. And I was like, okay. But inside I was scared. And I was like, fuck, this is January. I got to leave in June, July, and I'm going to go for 3 weeks. Where the fuck am I going to get the money?
Right.
And so one thing led to another. I put my feet down to the ground and got the running. You know what I mean? I put in the work. I started saving money. I started doing the inner work with you. That's when we were communicating a lot more, where you were running the challenges and we were able to serve in the communities in your private groups. So that really added value to my life and helped me realize, like, fuck, I am a lot more powerful than I was led to believe. Even though I was doing the work leading up to there, we've been doing this shit for, when did we start our first episode? Brown
Oh,
and
I don't
Spiritual
know.
AF. You know what I
I
mean?
have no idea.
It's been 2 years since we did that, and we started maybe 2 years before that, So all that work leading up to that moment, and then I just got that much more powerful. So I went out there. I met some really cool coaches, met some really cool people. I had a lot of amazing experiences. You know what I mean? At that time, here's what we're going to talk about, people. At that time, I was 3 years celibate, right? Because I had a breakup and I didn't have any kind of sexual experiences with anybody because I just didn't let them in. I thought to myself, like, if I let them in just like that, something crazy might happen and I might fall in love again or something like that. Well, I don't know if I ever fell in love, but you get what I'm saying. But lo and behold, I was out there, had a great experience with a bunch of these amazing women that have similar mindsets. Now, sometimes just because you have similar mindsets doesn't mean they're for you, though.
Right.
But I met this one in particular. There was a couple in particular that were really interesting, right? But this one night, it was the last night I was there. And my people were leaving and I needed a place to stay. Her people were leaving. She said, well, check this out. We could share a room. And I didn't think nothing of it. And I was like, okay, cool. Yeah, no big deal, whatever. Right. And one thing led to another. We had a cacao ceremony. We went dancing. We went to the beach and we swam in the water and it rained. It was a double rainbow in the sky. It was like this magical moment, right? And then when we came back to the apartment, she cooked dinner. And one thing led to another. And I had my first sexual experience in 3 years. And I was like, wow, this is crazy. And without the attachments either. That was really cool about this. We were both adults about it. We understood what we were getting ourselves into. And we stayed connected for a while after that, right? But then we just kind of just go our ways. So that experience alone was like, wow, I allowed somebody else in to have an intimate relationship. And that's what all the work that we did in the beginning of that year, January to when I left, you know what I mean? The worthiness challenges and all that stuff. And then to be around other like-minded individuals, make a lot of connections. And then to have that be the last day, right? And boom, like magical. And then we just go about our ways. And I come back and life was really hard when I got back. After you have an experience like that, for me, like I left, I was so emotional. I shit you not. Like the last day all my friends are leaving, I'm like crying. I'm like, what the fuck is wrong with me, Mark? You look like a little bitch right now. That's not the end of the world, right? You act like you're fucking leaving your mom or you're saying bye, somebody died or something, but it wasn't. But it had that much of an impact on me that when it was time to say goodbye, it felt like I was losing something, you know? Crazy, weird experience for me. And so I had to come back, had to unpack that. I had to get grounded again because I was so fucking high. You know what I mean? So high. I got back. I couldn't believe, like, wow, I just had an amazing experience. How did I pull this off? I'm in a great place. I am so grateful because not very many people just get to pop off into the world and go take off for 3 weeks in another country with no friends that you ever met before in your whole mother loving life. Like I could have got kidnapped. I could have got put into sex trafficking. Who knows what could have happened, right? But did it. People were worried about me. They're like, Mark, you're really going to go to that side of the world with the war going on over there? Because this was the time that Ukraine just started up and all that stuff, right? And they're like, you're going to be that close? How dare you? Aren't you scared? I was like, I could get shot walking out of my house here in Arizona, right? I could wreck my car, you know what I'm saying? I could get stung by a scorpion and be allergic to it, But yeah, that was the first time. You know what I mean? So
okay, wait, I want to pause. Okay, because I'm fascinated by what you said about intimacy. And I'm going to go there, right?
Of course you are.
So it's so fascinating to me because it's like, okay, so I'm not going to be intimate with anybody for a long time, which was an intentional decision. I'm sure you could have gone out and found anybody that you wanted within those 3 years, right?
Yeah, look at me.
Yeah. Okay, Mark.
Yeah, JK.
So here you are having this experience, and for you, it's like in your mind, you're like, I let somebody in. Even though you knew, because like the second thing you said after that was that we knew there was no attachment. So you went into the experience knowing that this was going to be sort of a one night kind of thing. There isn't like an ongoing relationship or anything, but you still in your mind was like, I let somebody in.
Mm-hmm.
I find that really fascinating because I think for some of us who say, I let somebody in, we are really expecting more than that, not just a one-time thing. So in your mind, what does it mean then to let that person in? Like why was that such a big deal for you? Like, what were you feeling, if you can reflect upon that?
Before sex was just sex. You know what I mean? I
Mm,
just wanted to hit it and that's it. I didn't understand the sacredness of my sexual energy. I didn't
okay.
understand the sacredness of intimacy of that nature. And every time I believe, this is what I believe and how I feel about this. Every time you make a connection one like that with somebody, you guys intertwine your energies in a way that wouldn't have happened if you didn't have that type of intercourse. And so when I say I let them in, I actually let them in. My barrier had to come down in order to get close enough to them like that so they can mix with my energy.
So it
And
wasn't just the physical act of it. You actually became vulnerable
yes,
in your spiritual being, in your energetic field, right?
yes. And because it was, and let me tell you, there was no alcohol involved. Like, you
Oh,
know what I
so
mean?
that's a big deal, right, for you?
There's no alcohol involved. We were open, we were clear, we were talking. It was very romantic. It was nothing like experiences that I've had before. Like when you meet
Mm,
somebody and you just go to the bar and you have a couple of drinks and one thing leads to another. It was a bunch. Like I said, the intimacy thing. We were at the beach and then we got in the freezing cold water. We were holding each other. It was raining, right? But the sun was out at the same time. There was fucking rainbows and there's two rainbows in the sky. Like this is a magical shit. And then to her to be so, because she understood, she knew that this had been 3 years for me also, right? And it was nothing forced. It just happened. You know what I
right,
mean? Nothing was forced on either end. It was just a magical moment. But like you said, in the back of my mind, I was like, oh shit, I'm actually letting somebody in. Because
right.
in the past, even though we don't like to think about this, we think, oh, it's just sex. A lot of times it's not. The minute you break that, the minute you get intimate with somebody like that, there are energies at work that you don't realize that's happening.
Mhm.
And a lot of people say, oh, this is just fun until it's not fun no more, until somebody catches feelings because there's something going on in the background. Like, I don't think a lot of people realize that shit like that could happen, even when you're just having some called fun. There's always somebody that gets hurt in the process. To somebody, it means a lot more than to the other person, if that makes
Right.
sense. And I
And
think a little bit I was scared about that.
so you had the experience, I think, and truth, it's your vulnerability. And I think just my understanding of your journey, and I may be completely off here, but my understanding of your journey has been really, really deeply connecting to yourself, like deeply connecting to yourself. So that is, I think, one of the ways that that has happened. But then the next thing you said was that when people were leaving, you were emotional about it, which I think, just thinking of Mark a couple years before, I don't know that you would have let yourself get connected in that way to people that were that were strangers to you, right? Like 3 weeks prior.
Yeah, and that was another surprise to me because like I don't get this way with family. You know what I mean?
Mm,
I could be away from my family for long periods of time and really not give a fuck. You know what I'm saying? Don't get me wrong. There's times that I miss my mom, I miss my dad, I miss my brothers. But there's not that like, oh, I'm sad. I'm going away for 5 years. I don't know. I'm gonna see you again. And this time it was strange because it wasn't just one person. It was multiple people, and every time someone left, it was like, oh, and they weren't just like fake tears. I mean, I was like ugly crying, you know what I mean? Like, oh my gosh, and I couldn't believe that this was happening. And maybe it wasn't because they were leaving. Maybe it's because I felt so seen, I felt so heard, I
mhm.
felt so connected, right?
I'm going to throw another word in. You felt safe.
Yes, and that
Mhm.
was what it was. Like at the end of this, I was like, "Oh my gosh, I didn't realize that. I knew it existed, but it had never happened to me like that in such a short amount of time and with so many people."
Mhm.
That's what this trip was basically about, that, right? And it's so interesting, it's so amazing, it's always, you know what I mean? There's no coincidence. It was so awesome that we were doing the worthiness shit leading up to this moment.
Yeah, it's
Fucking
amazing.
amazing.
Mhm. It's amazing when you really pay attention to the synchronicities that happen on your behalf, right? Like how the universe conspires for you.
Yeah,
Mhm. And so
and
you
it's
got back, and it was challenging to just get back into the grind, right? The day-to-day experiences. And so what happened from there?
definitely. I come back to work. You're around motherfuckers that are complaining. Their life sucks. You're like, Mark, you're so lucky. I wish I could do this. I wish I could do that. Like, we could all be lucky if you guys just fucking did the shit that you say you want to do. you
Mhm.
know, put back into the environment of waiting tables, you know. But at this moment, I'm already conditioned well enough that I could get into this work because that's what I do. I help people take toxic environments and turn them to training fields for personal transformation so that they can feel more joy, more excitement, and more satisfaction out of life right where they're at now, you know. And so that part, it was, once again, it was tough to come back here and not have any of those people around me and have so much support because now they're all gone over here. But we can still get on the computer and talk about it. But it's a lot different when you got people in the same room because the magic is just a little bit different. It's just more potent. But to come back home and then just have the same shit, like nobody else, like I went into a time warp. I came back fucking different as fuck, and everybody is still the same and or regressed. No, not everybody, but a lot of them. You know what I mean? So that made it really tough to really get integrated back in. But I had to, and I fell off a little bit. You know what I mean? It's like, oh man, I got to wait till I get back to my people before I could get this high again and whatnot. And I'd go inside and say, okay, Mark, hold on, you got a taste of this. What can we do now so the next time you could extend this
Mhm.
stay so you could bask in this amazing energy of these people a little bit longer next year, or maybe even sooner than next year,
Mhm.
you know? And then before you know it, it was time to go again. Before you know, it was time to go again. And I bought a one-way ticket.
Wow.
One-way motherfucking ticket. When you coming back? I don't know. Family's like, what do you mean you don't know? Same shit. Aren't you scared? You know there's a war going on over there, XYZ. What parts of the world are you going to? Well, I know I'm going to Estonia for sure. I'm going to go to Sweden. I'm going to go visit a friend in Croatia. So what happened was last year when I met some of these amazing people, they were like, you should come visit me in my country. I said, okay. They're like, really? I'm like, fuck yeah. Like, I'm the person that said, I'll be about it. You know what I mean? You invite me
Right.
somewhere and I got a place to stay, I'm going to go. So that's what happened. It started off with me to go and visit the people that I met last year, you know. And so that's what I did. I saved up the money that I needed. I knew how to do it because I did it the year before. I didn't know how long it was going to go for, but all I knew was like, I got a plane ticket there, I got X amount of money, all I need is $1,000 to get back because it's going to be any day that I will leave. And I know that last minute ticket's going to cost me about $1,000 to get back, even
Mhm.
though it only cost me fucking 400 to get there. You know what I mean? And so I went on the journey. My friend helped me navigate my first half of the trip, and the second half I just played it by ear.
Wow.
And I got back into the room, into the city with a bunch of friends that I got to connect with last year, and we had even closer, stronger bond. You know what I mean? We even created a lot of magic while we're out there. I reconnected with people that I didn't even remember that I met.
Mm.
You know, um, so my trip was I went to Croatia to visit my friend Nika. Is amazing. Croatia has crystal clear blue water that you can see like 40, 30 feet down in the ground, right? They got a bunch of sea urchins, so you got to watch where you step. That was new to me because over here we just walk into the beach and whatever. Over there you had to worry about that. And then from there, I went to Sweden with my friend Diana. I had my first international, right, event in Sweden, Stockholm, Sweden. What? I'm doing events across the globe. It's fucking crazy to me. And they're paid, you know? Then we
Yeah.
go to Estonia for Super Coach, which is the same event that we went for the last year. And I didn't think I was going to go and stay in there because I wanted to go. I met another woman that was there and she was like, hey, come stay with me. I'll show you around Estonia. And so we did that. But I already had my ticket and I was having a great time. And so I decided to go to the event, and man, it was magical because now I got bonded on with a bunch of other coaches, some of them that had just started their business, but now their business are growing amazingly. You know what I mean? We're dancing, we're having these amazing fun times. I'm meeting these really amazing coaches that are doing really great shit in the industry.
Mhm.
And people recognize me. They're like, oh my gosh, Mark, you're back. And I was like, wow, like this is crazy. Like people remember me because look, I stand out when I go anywhere because the way I dress, all these super suits you guys see that are on me, I'm part of this company called Super X. And I utilize these as my uniforms for my coaching practice. So when I'm out in the world, this is how I dress, or even here regularly. So people recognize me like this.
Mm.
Everywhere I went, they're like, oh, and if I wasn't in suit, they're like, hey, you're the guy that wears the suits all the time, right? I'm like, yes. They're like, okay, you look a little different because you don't got it on today. But another amazing thing happened this year because intimacy again, you know, out there, there's a bunch of people that you're meeting, you're making connections, and there's a lot of women that are coming into your space here and there, whatnot, XYZ. But in the beginning of my journey, I met this one woman and we were having conversations. We were talking about like lucid dreaming, and I was talking about my experience in France. I was like, man, I went to France for one day. It kind of sucked. The people were rude. I don't know if I want to go back to France because French people are just douchebags. You know what I mean? And she was like, well, maybe you just need to go with somebody that understands the land a little bit and the culture. And she was like, I live in Paris. And I was like, oh. And she was like, I was like, well, maybe I'll come visit you next time then. She was like, yeah, come visit me. Didn't think nothing of it, right? We crossed paths a couple more times. She was with a group of friends of my friends and with another friend of my friend. And we just continued, we just crossed paths, nothing weird and whatnot. Um, we say goodbye, everybody leaves. We cross paths a couple of times. I'm in Sweden, get on the end of my trip, getting ready to say, okay, where am I going to go? Am I going to go to Singapore or am I going to go to what's the other, Istanbul? Because I met a woman that we went to where did we go to? Serbia for a 5-day fucking outdoor camping trip, 7-day camping trip outside in 100-degree weather with 100% humidity for a festival, right? It was amazing. I met another woman there. She was like, hey, come visit us in Istanbul. And I was like, all right, I might come to Istanbul. But I posted on Facebook or Instagram, like, hey, where should I go next? And this person messaged me back. She's like, come to Paris and visit me and I'll take you around. I was like, fuck, you're being serious, huh? I was like, I'm going to sleep on this, right? And I was sitting there with my other friend. I said, fuck it, I'm just going to go to Paris again. Why not? And so I did. I went there for 2 weeks and I built an amazing relationship with this woman. You know what I mean? And we had a great time. So it's really interesting how every year, the last day, it was an intimate connection in a sense. You know what I mean? Like it wasn't intimate from the beginning. Like we didn't plan on all this happening. It was just two really good friends, but we had such a great time together that it just got stronger. You know what I mean? And it was more than just the physical attraction. It was that spiritual attraction, emotional attraction also. So there's so much more gaps that I have to fill in there. But let me tell you, I one-way ticket, a lot of stuff happened. Didn't know one was coming back. Went to Paris for 2 weeks, and then I headed back. Oh, and I was in Paris for the Olympics.
Oh, wow.
Yes.
That must have been chaos though, right?
It was because when I was there the first time, like I got there in June, late June, and they were setting up for all that. So a lot of roads were blocked off, and my GPS was fucking sending me in a lot of directions. And I was like, shit, this sucks, right? But when I went back, they said that a lot of the people from Paris kind of left, and there was a lot of tourists there. You know what I mean? But yes, a lot of roads were blocked off. You had to have QR codes to get into certain areas, certain things. So there's only certain places that we could really go. But when I was in Paris, we walked everywhere. Like literally, like every day we were out on the streets walking, hooving it. If it rained, you carried an umbrella, and the food was amazing. You know what I mean? The French people became a little bit nicer because I had somebody that could speak French with me. You know what I mean? But it taught me a lot about myself because being away from home for that long, I took literally, if you know me, I need shoes. Last year I took 7 pairs of shoes on my travels, or 9. This year I took 2, right? Last year, I had a big luggage, a check-on, a carry-on, and a backpack. This year, I had just a carry-on and a backpack.
Yeah.
I didn't know how long I was going to be gone for, and I had to make that shit work.
Yep.
You know, and I did. People are like, wow, you're going to be gone this long. You're only traveling with this. Who are you? I'm like, I had to figure it out.
Yeah.
You
Well,
know?
people who travel the world, that's the way they travel.
That's the way they fucking travel.
Yep.
You know, so it taught me a lot about myself because being in other people's energies for long periods of time, because I'm so used to being at home by myself. I go to work, I come home, I relax, I shut my shit off, and I'm in my books, I'm studying, I'm on my walks, I'm in the gym. When you're out in the world in other people's space, you can't get away from motherfuckers. You know what I mean?
Right.
And especially when you're visiting, people always want to connect and do things, and you're out here doing this. And I was like, oh my gosh, it really tested my patience. Like, don't get me wrong, I love my people that I'm around, but it wasn't about them. It was about me not having my quiet time.
Yeah.
It was about me not having my bed, my pillow, right? Not having my pairs of shoes that I had to wear fucking for 8 weeks in a row, the same ones. I'm like, oh my gosh, I got these motherfuckers still on. You know what I mean? Those little things. But I thought to myself, that was a trial for me when I become an actual global citizen. You see what I'm saying?
Mm-hmm.
So yeah.
So now that because you've gone twice, and you've had all of these experiences. What would you say that you have learned about yourself?
About myself, I learned that I am capable of a lot.
Mhm,
I'm a lot more resourceful than I give myself credit for.
mhm,
Um, I think it also taught me that I do like more my quiet time. Like I'm very extroverted, but I'm more introverted and extroverted. People don't really know that. And I noticed that, okay, I need a lot more of my quiet time than I thought in this
mhm,
time, leave this 8 weeks. You know what I mean? I would have to implement that a little bit better. I learned that I used to think the world was so big, you
mm,
know? I used to think the world was not as accessible to us. But when you're out there traveling, doing it, you realize it's a lot closer than you could have imagined. It's a lot more accessible than you could have ever imagined. Like I think about what I went out there on money wise,
mhm,
you know, people think it costs thousands of dollars to go on a vacation.
mhm.
Well, I didn't go on a vacation. I went on an adventure. I went on a journey. That didn't mean I stayed in fucking five-star hotels and I flame me on every night. I did all this crazy shit. I learned how to navigate the world just like I'll navigate it here, you know? And I was able to have great experiences without investing too much money, if that makes sense. You know what I mean? And because I was able to connect with people so well, it allowed me to realize that I'm a lot more trusting than I thought being out in
Mm,
the world
mm.
because when you're out there doing stuff and you just meet somebody and they say, "Hey, come with me," and you just hop in their car and you're driving down the freeway and it's like forest for like 2 hours and you don't know this person, you know what I mean? Like,
Yeah.
yeah, like it allowed me to realize that I got a lot more courage. I'm a lot more braver than I give myself credit for sometimes, you know what I
Mm,
mean? So
mm,
those are probably some of the things that I learned about myself. And I know that I'm ready to go and do it again.
yeah.
Yeah.
So what's next for you?
What's next? Right now, I'm building my businesses. That's another thing that I learned is my ability to connect and ask for help and realize I don't have to do it all by myself. And there's other people out there that are looking for pieces that I could bring to the table. And
Mhm,
so it reminded me, being around these people reminded me, like, wow, they're not like you tend to think that people are better than you at certain things and or you put them on a pedestal and in reverse they put you on a pedestal also, right? And you guys are having this pedestal conversation in your head, like who's better in your heads, but no, but when you sit down and have these conversations you realize like, wait a minute, they look up to you just as much as you look up to them. And
yeah.
when we could have come together, then we start being able to communicate better and then be able to see where we could help each other. And that's what's next for me is to be able to go across the globe. Like I said, I hooked up with my friend Deanna and she created an event out there. And just like here, we didn't know what we're going to talk about today. I didn't know exactly what we were going to do. We created a golden shadow manifestation event. What the fuck
Mhm,
does that mean? I don't really know, but let me tell you, when we got there, we just figured it out and we just let it roll, right? Spiritual improv. So what's next is for me to continuously grow on my skill set, continue to build my coaching business so that I can go and step away from my, what would you say, 9 to 5 job, my waiting
mhm,
tables job. You know what I mean? I've been
mhm,
so secure with that money to back what I'm doing that
mhm,
I think I'm ready in the next less than a year, maybe a year, to go ahead and let that go and adventure off into the world and really allow myself to step into my full potential and bring in that money like I know how, like I used to when I was young in the streets, right? But this
mhm.
time I'm the product. You know what I mean?
That's awesome. Well, that's so cool, Mark. I'm excited for you. I'm so happy that you've had this experience. I think it has really kind of expanded your awareness. And I think not only expanded your awareness about the world, and as you said, how we're more closely related than we think we are, but also, I mean, I can even sense the difference. You know, those of you who are listening or watching, I do have an intuitive nature that everybody does, but I can kind of tap into mine pretty easily. And yeah, you feel um I don't know how else to describe it, but there's this more sense of wholeness to you. Does that make sense when I say
Yeah.
that?
Yeah, you know what I mean? Because I think before when I used to be compartmentalized. I don't know if I said that right, but
Mhm,
like
mhm,
parts of me were like, oh, I don't, it wasn't a part of me. It was like it was out there somewhere and I had to go searching for it and I had to find it in somebody else or I had to find it in something else, right? Like,
mhm,
who am I without my music? Who am I without my job? You know what I mean? If I'm not doing XYZ, but I've learned to really integrate all these things within me and through these experiences. People, I'm telling you, if you want to get out into the world and travel to transform, it's not just about going to see beautiful places and touching different land. You get to have an experience from within yourself that allows you to figure out more about you by seeing what it's like in different cultures. Like America's very different compared
mhm.
to you go to
Yep.
France. It's very different from when you go to Sweden. It's very different when you were in Serbia. Like, man, I went to Serbia, right? And we couldn't read the menus. And I'm like, what the fuck is this? And so the lady, though, her hospitality went above and beyond. You know what I mean?
Mhm,
This was like fucking Dunkin' Donuts. We always bash on Dunkin' Donuts. This motherfucker would have been pissed off because I didn't understand what they sold there. This
mhm.
lady, I was like, I don't know what these are. She brought us out 3 different fish. This is what this one looks like. This is what this one looks like. This is what this one looks like. Well, what about these sides? What are these? This is our potato salad. These are our regular potatoes. These are our fried potatoes. She brought this shit out raw before she cooked it to show us
Wow.
what it would look like.
Wow.
Blow my mind. You know what I mean? Blow
Yeah.
my mother loving mind. You
Yeah.
know. And when I was in Serbia, we were there for 7 days. We stayed in a tent, right? It was 100 degrees, 100% humidity, almost like 70% humidity. I was dying. Let me tell you, I could survive anything now.
Yeah.
I thought I was smart and I said, I'm going to hide in the shade, right? And I was sleeping in my tent like this on the outside of the tent in the little shade spot. The weather said, all right, bitch, you think you can get away from me? We're going to go from 50 to 80% humidity. You can't hide from this. And let me tell you, it's just,
Yeah. No,
we're
I
going
used to
to,
live in humidity like that. I totally get it. It was
yeah.
pretty awful.
So all around, yeah, you get tested. You know what I mean? You get tested on what you're able to. We had to sleep in airports
Mhm.
for hours at a time. We had to wait outside and catch buses in places that you would think like I might get I might get murdered here. You know what I mean?
Yeah.
But that was just my perception of being there, right? Because that's what you would think because of the way an area looked. She was like, "Mark, this place is safer." A guy that we're in the taxi with, he was like, "It's safer here than you are in New York City." I was like, "It doesn't look very safe." He was like, "But it is." Yeah.
I'm telling you, when you do step outside of the United States and you go into different countries, it really changes you. It really, when you're open hearted, when you go in and you really connect to the people and you really pay attention to community and you really, it changes you.
Yes.
Yeah.
I had to look over at my friend a couple of times, like, uh, what are they saying to me? Like, you feel dumb. You know what I mean? And then when you're in France or Paris like that, these mother lovers make you feel that way sometimes too. You know what I mean? I'm like, is this what it's like to be an immigrant, like in America? Like, is this how
Yeah.
we make people feel? You see what I'm
Yep.
saying? Like, oh my
Yeah.
gosh, yeah,
Yeah, it was a super humbling experience when I moved to, because I lived in Germany for a few years. And it was a super humbling experience to not be able to communicate easily what I needed when I was so accustomed to be able to do that here in the United States. And so my whole perspective just shifted about people and how we build community and how we unite and how we're responsive to, being inclusive. It's like all of those things, they mattered to me, but because I had the experience, it really matters to me more now than ever. Yeah.
yes. It helped me slow down also and
Mm,
appreciate life. They live differently. Like like my friends, when I went to go visit them in their spots, their way of life is so much simpler and different because we were outside of the city, except for when
mm,
I was in Paris. But even inside Paris, city life is a lot different. You get up, you walk down to the coffee shop, you go sit down, you actually drink your coffee, sitting down, having a fucking conversation, watching people walk past and forth, right? Then you get up, you go inside, You come back out, get some more coffee, you know, maybe a croissant. You know what I mean?
Yep.
It was just a different pace of life, and it was like you said, it was humbling because you go and you have a lot of different foods options in different places. The food is amazing, like you know what I mean. I can eat the whole pizza and not feel bloated. You know,
Mhm.
like the shit is just so much more fresher out there.
Yeah, most definitely. What I liked about Paris was that, well, what I found really interesting is you were mentioning the coffee shops. When you go into the coffee shops and they have the seating outdoors, there were so many of them that were facing out,
Yeah, they're all
like
facing out.
they're facing out to like face the street, which I found really fascinating.
Yeah, and not only that, they're so close to each other.
Mhm. And
Like,
can sit at a table with people you don't know.
yes, we
Like, why
went
would you
to
do that?
we went to one restaurant, right? And they went to sit. I was like, how the fuck are we gonna fit in here? He pulled the fucking table out. She got in and pushed it back. You know what I mean?
Yeah.
It's crazy. It's just so much just different. You know what I mean?
Mhm.
Service is kind of non-existent out there, people. So I think I said this last time or another time. Don't expect Johnny on the spot service because that's one thing that taught me is patience and just to have a good time and enjoy the experience because service in America is unique
Mhm.
to America. It's not like that everywhere in the world. You know what I
Mhm.
mean? They're not
Absolutely.
Johnny on the spot. They're not attentive. They don't give a fuck. They want you to eat and leave them alone. These mother lovers were smoking on their break right next to us. Like, like you see my fucking water's empty. Like, I don't give a fuck.
Oh, that's awesome. Well, I'm glad you had that experience.
Yeah. It
Yeah.
opened up the doors for so many more things to come, and it got my mind going, and I'm ready, like I said, for the next stage of my life. Is not going to be just I don't wanna use the word stuck here in Arizona, but I thought that I'd be here most of my life until I had those experiences, realized that, wow, the world is way more accessible. It's a lot smaller than I believed, right? And there's people across the globe that are just like me looking to have experiences. So my friend that I went to go visit when she was in Paris, she was just here for 11 days.
Mm.
So when I'm saying that it was one of those experiences for somebody to travel that far to come over here and then see your land, it was awesome. We went up to Sedona, went up to the Grand Canyon, took her to a basketball game. So she had an American experience, right? So
That's awesome.
it's that part of me is opening up, and it's still a little kind of but I don't know exactly where. We had kind of a conversation about it, and it kind of made me feel like a little like, oh, like, you know what I mean? Like, oh, don't talk about that right now. You know what I mean? But it's not as scary as it would have been 3 years ago, 2 years
Mhm.
ago when we first started having these conversations. You guys go back to listen to the other episodes, you'll see how closed off I was and how not open I was to these fucking experiences.
Yeah. It takes time. It takes time to, because as you said, when somebody approaches you and comes to you with questions, wanting to have these conversations, want to be deep and reflective, that part within you that was terrified of those experiences or where you didn't get to practice that in the time in your life where, as a child, feeling safe and protected and being able to feel secure about having conversations like this, or even into your teen years and then beyond that, it's like it's a new experience for you. It's a
Definitely,
new
because
experience.
you had those conversations when somebody wanted something from you in a
Right.
sense. You know what I mean? So it's one of those things, and I just didn't. Yeah, I'm excited to see where this goes and where I end up in the next 6 months, 7 months. Because of my practices and the things that I've been staying consistent with. So yeah. So all right, did you get enough out of me?
I did
Yeah,
for now.
for now, because I am curious too, because I've been watching you.
Yeah.
Right. I follow you. I see your things. We got a couple of mutual friends that I follow and I see their stuff. And I've been watching from afar, like, oh wow, this is dope. I popped in on a couple of your readings. If you guys don't know, or if you're tuning in brand new to this, or you're new to us, and if you're somebody from across the globe that just happened to meet me and you just thought you would pop on, Missy Sella does these amazing intuitive readings like live on Facebook. And let me tell you, she gets surprised, I think, more than us sometimes when she's like, oh shit, I hit that. Like, you know what I mean? It's like she played. It's like, motherfucker, you've been doing this for so long. You should just trust yourself. Like, why are you surprised? You know what I mean?
I
It's like you open the
seriously
bag of
do.
Doritos and you're lucky that they're crunchy. Well, yeah, they're fucking Doritos. Like, you know what I mean? It's hella funny. I crack up every time.
You know
But
what's
I,
crazy? I've been doing this for a while and I still do it. I still like, if I'm like, I'm feeling like pressure in my head, and then they'll go, yeah, I had a head cold. I'm like, oh
yes, I know. I had a friend that was her name's Amber. She's been popping on a few times before, and she was having she was sick at one time, and you were talking about pressure in the nose area. She's like, oh my gosh, and I was just like laughing because I'm like, yeah, Isella, like yeah, you're great at what you do. You know how to tap into people and their energies and really go deep in that area. And so what I'm curious about is because I see the posts, I kind of know what you're doing, but I don't know the details of who you've hooked up with and what it is you guys are bringing out into the world and how you stepped away from your real job. You know what I mean? Somebody asked me, what's your real job? Like, motherfucker, I'm a coach. That is my real job. But you stepping away from education in a way that has been providing your lifestyle for forever. I mean, look, this shit says Dr. Isela Garcia. You know what I mean? So that's how into the educational system she is. You know what I mean? But you've been kind of slowly but surely inching your way over to the dark side. That's what people will probably
yeah.
say. So
I
how's
will
that
tell
going?
you, I've been in the field of education, early childhood more specifically. I specialize in trauma and the long-term implications of trauma, but in what we consider developmentally appropriate practices for young children. That's been, and I love that work. I mean, it is not that I don't love the work. It's not that I'm not good at the work. I'm really good at that because it's like I lived these experiences in my life that made me very effective at the work. And I've been doing it for over 30 years. It's been over 3 decades that I've been doing this work. And a few years ago, I was approached by an organization out of California that provides really some foundational expectations across the nation for what we consider high quality practices. And they said, we want you to create a training for young boys of color, which there's been lots of conversations about how our systems in education, including early childhood, are really systems of oppression and how the undercurrent of racism impacts young boys of color. And so they asked me to do this, and this is a huge project, huge. The manual is 400 pages. They wanted me to create a training for this. And I was like, well, I'm kind of going to do this spiritual thing, but okay. So, and it took a year of my life. Like it really, and I'm going to say it took because it was a powerful experience. I created something that I know was divinely orchestrated. I created characters. They were able to hire voice actors. We created a training that's nowhere has anything been created like what I was able to do. And I have the creative freedom to do that. But it took so much time and effort and energy. And so I was kind of dabbling a little bit in this spiritual community and this spiritual work that I've been focusing on doing for a really long time. I would say at least 10 years. I'm like, eventually I'm going to shift, eventually. And that was my big contribution to the field, like huge contribution. It took hundreds because it was translated to Chinese, traditional Chinese, Spanish, and at least 2 other languages. So it was huge. But I knew that it was like, okay, this is my last hurrah, right? This is my big hurrah, my contribution to the field, kind of like my legacy of the field. And now I need to like transition my ass into knowing that this is what I'm supposed to be doing. And I really for a long time played with, okay, what is it exactly? What's my focus? Because everyone talks about what's your niche. And I'm like, my focus really is number one is building community, because I think the spiritual community has it all fucked up where we are do this individual, like, I think there's some level of individual self-awareness that we develop, but we do it within community. And the community reminds us of the truth of who we are, which is we are part of this collective experience. And it's what you described, Mark. You went over to a whole nother country or countries and you connected with people. And you learn a lot about yourself when you connect with people. But really, what happens is from a vibrational standpoint, we help each other rise. I mean, we help each other see the good, the bad, the ugly. But within that, if we're self-reflective, we can really connect to who we truly are. And that's really that's what our aim is. Our aim is to reconnect to our wholeness, to understand that truth. So I build community. And the second thing is, I think we all are able to connect to spirit, to our intuitive nature, to our divine guidance, to angels, to all that is. But we have a lot of bullshit that has gotten in the way in this lifetime that keeps us from doing that. So I hate when people say, oh, you have a gift. I don't have a gift. What I did was I figured out, okay, here are the things, and I still work at it. If anybody ever tells you that, oh, now I'm in an enlightened state and I never have to, they're lying to you. Everybody has ebbs and flows. Everybody is having a human experience. And what happens is we just actually develop the capacity to be able to move through those experiences with more grace and more ease. So what I aim to do, and what I've been working on as I've inched away from education, has really been helping people tap into what's getting in the way. Why is this a block for you? And how do you connect to your intuition? How do you connect to your true knowing? And I want to say something, Mark, because I've been called out on this a few times, which I find it very fascinating. In our groups, and you were in the 21-day challenge, and there have been a few times that since then you've jumped on my lives. So I do lives on Facebook where, I think we've created communities, so I know more about people, but the people in the group, but it's like, these are people you don't know, you don't see, you're just connecting to energy. But I've been called out that people say I'm hard on you.
On me?
Yes.
What the
People
fuck is
have
that?
told me you are really hard on Mark. I'm like, I am.
What?
Yeah.
That's so funny. People's perspective of things, right?
Right.
Maybe it's because they don't understand, like, my personality could accept that. Like, I don't think you're being hard on me at all. It's like, we have a you could talk to me in a direct way that I'm going to get the fucking message, right? We don't tiptoe around the messages that are coming through. They act like it's yourself giving me this message. This shit's being channeled through you. Just like, here, tell this hard-headed motherfucker, this is what we mean right now, and go do it. And so I get it. I could see why they would think that. You know what I mean? Like, I could see why they would think that.
That's my point. My point is that, see, with you, I can say, Mark, stop doing that shit. Like, you really need to do this instead of that. Like, connect to the part of you. Because I remember talking to you about your inner child. I remember talking to you about, like, you need to, like, let yourself get vulnerable and like do some truth talking to yourself.
Ooh,
like, I'll just come out and say that to you because I know. And yes, I'm being channeled, but I also have an understanding of who Mark is.
Yes.
And so that, I think, is my skill. If I had to identify what a skill is I can kind of sense, who do I need to say, well, let's talk about that a little bit more. I wonder where that idea is coming from, or why do you think that's true for you? Like, where was the first time you heard that message? Whereas with you, I'm like, Mark, stop fucking doing that. Like, don't do that anymore, because look at the patterns that you have created, like, over the course of your life. It's time to shift out of that. It may be the same message, but the delivery is different because I intuitively can tap into the energy that I'm engaging with.
Yes.
And I think that's what makes me different. If I had to identify what makes me unique in terms of the services I offer, it's because this is called trauma informed, but I tap into where you are, and I align with that energy so that I can help you unravel in the way, and I mean unravel in a good way, because it's the onion that gets in the way of us being able to tap into our intuition. We have to layer back, but I do it in a way that you can hear it, you can feel it, you can understand it, and it's responsive to who you are as a human being.
And I like that one. I could feel it, So when me and Isabel are having these conversations, because we have a lot of conversations over the last 3 or 4 years, so she understands me a lot more because we've had in-depth conversations. And she didn't start off soft with me. She could read how my energy is and understand how to relay the information over to me. And that's what's really dope about you, is like, you've never changed up your approach with me. You know what I mean? It's been the same the whole time. Every time it's like, check this out, XYZ. And I think it's because you understand I'm a straight to the point type person. And you're straight to the point with me. And even in the conversation, if you guys go back and watch these older videos, you will see what people are talking about. You know what I mean? It's like, wait a minute, hold on, Mark. You know what I mean? Like if I try to slide past something, hold on, we're gonna rewind a couple of hold that thought, but we're gonna rewind a little bit. And what did you mean by that? You know what I'm saying? So she really helps you go in deep and not just say the cover story. She brings you down into the depths of the core of the story, the core of the belief, the core of the limitation. You see what I'm saying? So that's really dope. And I love that. And a couple of these lives, you help people believe in themselves also, because I saw you brought people on for them to tap into their intuition live on Facebook. That's fucking scary, people. Like to go on and be that vulnerable and test out your abilities and not knowing if you're going to hit or not hit. Man, I've seen you do that live with a couple people. I'm like, wow, this is fucking awesome. How did she get them to fucking do this? You know what I mean? Like to do it behind doors is one thing, but to come on here live, right? On Facebook, on YouTube, or wherever the hell you stream all your shit. Like, you know what I mean? That's amazing.
It is scary. It's scary. It was scary for me when I initially started doing this, especially because see, when you're sitting with somebody, even like us here together, I can see your your facial expressions, how you move your body. I can kind of get a sense of that, right? But when you're on Facebook and you don't see shit, you really just tapping into energy. I mean, that's all you got, right? And so it's super scary. But what I did was I made these cards. So I created, that's one of the things I did in the last 2 years since we've been together. So I created these cards, something that I've wanted to do for a really long time. And my primary reason, I have two primary reasons. So I guess they're not primary. There's two reasons. The first reason is that when I tap into angels and guides and spirit, I see them based on my own experiences of life. We all do. So we make sense of what we're experiencing based on who we are and what we've lived through. And so my experience with Archangel Michael is very different, and how I see him, because he's energy. He's not a form. We're form. But we create form in our minds because that's what makes sense to us. But I don't see Archangel Michael as everybody else sees him. And so the cards that I was using didn't represent what I see. The second reason why I created my own deck of cards is because inclusivity is really an important part of the community that I build. And what I mean by that is there's a lot of us who are not seen, a lot of us who are not recognized in our community. And I think that for me, that helping people feel safe, seen, secure, to be able to be vulnerable. And I think, you've been a part of those experiences, Mark, where you've been a part of that group where you do feel like you can share, you can open up, you can really let yourself, deeply feel whatever's happening for you. So inclusion is really an important part of my experience. And so when I created these cards, I was really mindful to have people of color, because that's my experience. People of color is, I am a person of color, but to have representation that has people who look like myself and my husband. If you don't know, my husband is Black. And so I wanted what I see in my life and what's important to me. Archangel Raphael actually looks something like that when I tap into, and these took me a long time to create. And I wanted people of different shapes and sizes, because all of the damn cards I would see out there were white folks who, were like dinky tiny. I wanted people who were older. I wanted people who, I have one in here here's my Archangel Michael. To me, that's what he looks like.
Like real shit, like things that you would see, because we're so diverse. We're so, like, when you travel out, even in the United States, there's so many different shapes, colors, sizes. And for some reason, when it comes to be putting things on public, right, we make it look a certain way. And that's got a lot to do with the conditioning. So I'm really excited that you have a great way of bringing this out into the world where people can start to understand how and why and how we got here. You know what I mean? And where do we go from here? And even in the spiritual community, because like you said, the community system sometimes got it fucked up, because the spiritual communities say they're spiritual, but you can see a lot of these 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 conditionings that they bring over
Yeah.
into these communities, and they seem like they're all in they're separate within their own communities too, is
Yeah.
what I see
Well,
a
it's
lot of the time.
bias. It's bias.
Yes.
We have implicit bias. And we're unaware of that implicit bias. And so my development of these cards were really to capture what's significant to me and what I see. And so what I did, because that's kind of where our conversation started, was when I created these, I still sell them. And there were folks who bought my cards, and then I provided a session, and it literally was like a 1 hour session where I showed them how to let the cards really lead the experience. You don't have to do anything. I mean, you see this on TikTok where people are just like with the tarot cards and they're just shuffling and they're like, here's your card. Here's your card. And that's kind of it. They just read the cards. And so that I did the workshop, and I'm like, okay, if you want to come on live and try it, we've got a
Mhm.
group, a community already. I have a community called I Am Loved, the Love Being Facebook community group that invite anybody to join. And anybody, but there are rules because we need to be inclusive of everybody. So there are rules. And yeah, that's where they tried it out. They went,
Mhm.
and I have to tell you, it was pretty impressive because they were nervous, and because rightfully so, right? But they did amazing.
Yeah, they did, because I was like, wow, look at them doing it, because it is, you know what I mean? And that's what's the amazing thing about being in your space, is you help people feel so safe, so comfortable, that they're able to tap into these things. But I'm curious, did anybody that you didn't know buy the cards and be like, what the fuck is this shit? Like,
Yeah. No, but I think that if you know me,
yeah.
and I know people. So I'll give you an example. There's a woman who I've worked with for many years. She's part of another spiritual community that I'm a part of, and she wanted to buy my cards. And I said, hey, I just want to let you know what you're buying. I want to let you know that the people in these cards that are represented are mostly people of color. And you have to make a decision as to whether that's going to resonate with you and resonate with the people that you work with, because she's a coach. And I'm real honest about that. I'm not trying to like hide. I'm not trying to do
Yeah.
any of those things, but I think that this should be what we should see everywhere. But when I look at my full deck, and I've got, probably 20 decks of cards over the years, there are very few that are representative of our communities.
Yeah.
And so, but I want people to feel connected and that this resonates with them, and that's why they make the purchase. So I'm going to tell you right off, hey, you need to make sure that and you can also get these digitally. They're available where you can just get them on your phone, and you can pick a card each day or 3 cards or whatever. So that's one of the big things that I've been working on the last 2 years.
And I love the way that you said, this is the way I see them. This is the
Right.
way I envision them, because we get caught up a lot of the times, and I see this still in the spiritual communities or in the coaching communities, like, well, it's just not done that way. Well, it wasn't done that way until I fucking did it. Like,
Right.
you know what I mean? It's like, who's to say, just because somebody put this idea of what Archangel Michael fucking looks like, and so you
Yeah.
took that and you ran with it with your imagination, and you think XYZ is this. You know what I mean? And I see that all the time. And so when I saw yours and I see you playing and I see the way you approach things, you give people the creativity and the open to say, hey, maybe it hasn't been this way this whole time.
Mhm.
Because how can you put, right? How can you put figure into an energy, right?
Right.
Because we're this, right? But if you were to think what my energy was and you had to draw it, it wouldn't look anything like me. You see
Yeah.
what I'm saying? Like,
Yeah.
if you were to see my body, people, and you were just to hear my voice, and then you actually see me, right? People see me sometimes, and then they ask, "What is it that you do?" And I tell them what I do, and they're like, "You don't strike me as that type of person." You know what I
Right.
mean? Right? I don't look like it because I got tattoos and I have my like. But when they start talking to me and they have the experience of me, they're like, "Oh, I can see why now." Right?
Yeah.
Because it's not my appearance, it's the way I show up, how animated I am, the way I speak, the way I carry myself, the way I make them feel. They're like, "Oh, now I can see why you do that." You
Yeah.
know what I mean?
Absolutely. Yeah.
Yeah,
The
yeah.
other thing that I'm working on this coming year in January, I'm releasing it's kind of my signature program. It's the Sacred Journey Within. And a good friend of mine and coach, Nina Vasquez, and I are going to be really creating
Nina.
this community. I believe, especially now especially this time and what's happening in the world, it is the time where divine feminine energy, we're coming through. And one of the things that we need to do collectively, and it's not just about women, it's about this divine energy of unity and community and love coming through. We need to heal. And the healing journey is really the catalyst for tapping into your inner knowing. And that's what my intent is to create community so that we can help people uncover what's getting in the way of the healing, that what they, how they're going to heal and what's left to heal, so that they can learn to trust themselves, they can learn to trust their intuition. And when you do that, well, you get into what's called the flow. And the flow, far too often in our community, in the spiritual community, even the personal development community, we focus from here to here. And what this is our chakra systems that are kind of like the upper chakras. And because it feels good to connect to spirit, it feels good to develop our third eye, it feels good to learn to be able to communicate our needs and understand what we need and be able to communicate those, be able to articulate those. But we have this lower chakra system that's really about old pain, old trauma, and old hurts. And what happens is we develop all of this intellectually, get a good understanding intellectually, but we don't really tap into old pain and old hurts. So what happens is you go through life and you're doing great and something activates you, something triggers you. It might be a relationship, it might be a situation, it might be things happening at work. Something activates you, and it's not really about what's happening in front of you, it's something that's actually stuck in the body. And so this work that we're doing is the culmination and the combination of understanding our energy and how energy works, and also understanding form and recognizing that form is a way, our bodies are a way it's communicating to us. And so that's the true healing, is when we tap into form, understanding the truth of who we are, so that you can get to this intuitive nature, and then you just get in the flow. You just get in the flow.
I like being in the flow. And I think over the last 4 years that we've been able to connect and chat and have these conversations live, it's really helped me, people, let me tell you. And I haven't actually got a reading from you specifically one-on-one, but we spent so much time with each other having these conversations live. So me and Isela got to know each other literally live. Like, we don't hang out outside of this really and have these conversations. Like, we'll have conversations about what we want to talk about and XYZ and things that are coming up. Like, when we were going to do this episode, I just reached out to her like, hey, I think we should start Brown and Spiritual AF up again. And she was like, okay, let's do it. And I was like, yeah, let's have a conversation up. She was like, hey, how's Monday? I was like, okay, let's go. And then she got out. She's like, what are we talking about? I was like, fuck, I don't know. Just hit record and see what happens. You know what I mean? But I know for a fact that being in her presence, being within her communities, and being around the people that she attracts into her space is amazing. And it's helped me so much. Like a little 5-minute reading, maybe 3 or 4 times a year, right? Being in her worthiness challenge right before leading up to the first time I went to Europe. All these little things, to be in her space and the information that she's let over, as long as you utilize it and put it to use, right? Because there's one thing for Missy Seller to give you information. It's how you utilize the information in order to move forward and actually do the fucking work. Right. And it was tough. And I can see why people think she's tough on me, because you know what I mean? Sometimes I need a little extra kick, because especially when you're working with these lower chakras, the blockages, the hurt, pain, especially when it comes to intimate relationships, when it comes to creating a business that's legal and making just as much money legally as you were illegally, like these things start to cross and those past hurts come up. But Missy Sella helped me work through those in the little bit of time that we've had together, and then over through the times of the coachings that we've had on Brown and Spiritual AF. So if you guys want to go see some of those, go watch them, go look at them. You're gonna be like, holy shit, wow, this is real powerful stuff. And just to be sitting here right now in 2025 going into, wait, is it 2024? 2024 going into 2025, a whole different person than when we first met in the beginning. It blows my mind to think that this soul and the way she utilizes things. And a lot of people will say, wait, you know what I mean? They'll look at it and they want to, um, what do you say? We want to put our blockages up. That's what I wanted to do right away. When you say things like, oh, I want to like, oh, they didn't hear that. But she speaks so powerfully that you cannot hear it because it'll resonate in your body later on and it'll come up later and it'll keep coming until you actually do something. So I really recommend y'all, if you're looking for community, if you're looking to heal, like really heal and get the tools necessary in order to help make it practical and easy for you to do the work. Now, I'm not saying that it's going to be easy going through the work, but the way she breaks it down makes it easy for you to at least try it. I suggest that you do that, especially going into the new year with all the changes that we're going to see, all the changes that are happening in the world across the globe, and even within your own communities, within your own friendships, within your work, right? Within yourself. You know, there's a lot out there that you don't understand about yourself, and there's no way you could understand the fucking world if you don't understand yourself. So I really suggest give her a shot, give her a chance. If you're here listening, if you're in my communities, anything, hit her up. Go watch her, stalk her a little bit. Go watch some of the old videos and see where she's coming from. This mother lover knows her shit. The DR ain't there for no reason, right? It's not there for no reason.
Thank you, Mark. I think too, I show up, and I really truly believe that it's important for me to step to the side and allow spirit to come through. So for me, it's like I'm willing to do the work, but I really just allow myself to be divinely guided. But it also means that, like for you, you take it and you do it. And that's the other piece, because I can sit here and remind you and share with you and talk to you, but it's like when I say, and I take things and make it very practical. So I'm like, okay, you take some post-it notes, you write all this stuff down, then you group them together. So I try really hard to make it. There you go. It's like, here are these practical approaches to delve just a little bit deeper. And it's the work that you're willing to do the work. And yeah, it's scary. And yeah, it can feel very overwhelming. But you know what? You're divine. You're a divine being. Like, you are more than the form that you've become so attached to. So you're truly capable of moving through the fire and coming out your magnificent self.
That's my name. Mark my magnificence. Yeah, you guys all have magnificence within you, you know?
Yeah.
And so, yeah, wow, I'm excited to be back and doing this on a regular basis. I don't know how we're going to do this every other week or what we're going to do, but we're going to have to sit down and talk about that because this is fun. I really miss this. And I know there's been a lot of people that have been asking, Mark, when are you guys going to get together? Because we love when your energies are there. You know what I mean? Because we do very similar work, but we do it in very different ways.
Yeah.
You know, we do it in very different ways. And it's amazing when we come together and I rewatch because I knew we were leading up to this. I went back, started watching some of our older things, and it just made me laugh. Like, oh my gosh, like I actually did this. Like, you know what I mean? And to think that I'm here right now, still doing it, getting ready to transform into the next version of myself, you know, and to see you transform into the next version of yourself, to see where you were to where you are, where we were as a team and where we are as a team now is like, wow, we're just getting much more powerful people. And that's because even people like us, we still put in the work. We still go deep. We still understand that we don't totally know ourselves, and we probably never will, you know, but we're pulling that onion back every single day, every single month. We have good days. We have days that we interpret as bad, but then we look at them as like, wow, what is this teaching me? What is this showing me? We go back to the drawing board. We go look at our post-it notes. We go look at our whatever tools that we're utilizing, our journals, and say, okay, this is where I was. This is how I responded this time. This is how I responded this time. Same scenario, but I didn't get as mad this time. And then now I'm, you know what I mean? So thank you so much for showing up, and thank you for actually saying, yeah, let's redo this again. So everybody that's listening, everybody that's watching, thank you for hanging in there, chatting with us, putting in the comments. People, I see you, Sally. And Nina actually commented in my side, but I can't comment back. I'm learning this platform, people. So it's going to take a little bit before I'm able to understand how this technology stuff works on our end. But to y'all that are listening to the replay, thank you very much for tuning into Brown and Spiritual AF, and stay tuned for further episodes where we're going to go deep into other topics that are going to help you grow Going to help you dig deep, help you see the mirror out in the world, right? So when the world's pissing you off, you can start to understand why and how it's showing up for you the way it is, to teach you something, to show you something. And then, of course, we're going to bring our stories, because we had 2 years and we didn't even touch on a lot of the stuff. We touched on the broader things, but there's so much more that we learned through the last 2 years that we are going to show to you guys and tell our stories and be able to break down and how we overcame and worked through a lot of the obstacles that we've encountered. So thank you very much for tuning in. See you on the next one.